You know, there are these moments in history, these single points in time, where everything just pivots. The whole fate of civilization can swing on one decision, on one single day. Well, the Battle of the Metaurus in 27 BC was exactly one of those moments. This was a fight that wouldn't just decide a war, it was going to decide the future of an entire empire.
Now those words, they came from Hannibal Barca. This is Rome's greatest nightmare, the military genius who had brought the mighty republic to its absolute breaking point. But that quote, that's not a shout of victory. It's a whisper of total and complete defeat. So what on earth could bring a man like Hannibal to that point? The answer is tied up in the story of one incredible battle, one unbelievably desperate gamble, and a march that would either save Rome or destroy it. So let's dive in and break down exactly how it all went down. All right, to really get the stakes here, you have to picture the scene back in 27 BC. The Second Punic War had been grinding on for more than 10 years. And for Rome, it felt like an absolute unwinnable nightmare. The Republic was exhausted, it was bleeding out, and it was staring into the abyss. I mean, for a decade, Hannibal had been on an absolute rampage through Italy. He dealt Rome one crushing, catastrophic defeat after another. Trebia, Lake Trasimene, and of course the infamous Battle of Cannae. He had just systematically wiped entire Roman armies off the map. He was, without a doubt, the monster in the dark for the Republic. And the human cost of all this, it's just staggering to think about. It's estimated Rome had lost nearly a fifth of its entire population of military-aged men. The city was literally running out of soldiers, running out of food, and honestly, running out of hope. And just when you think, okay, it can't possibly get any worse, it does. Hannibal's brother, Hasdrubal Barca, successfully crosses the Alps. Now Rome is facing the terrifying prospect of fighting two of the sons of the Thunderbolt. Hannibal's got Roman legions pinned down in the south, while Hasdrubal is coming down from the north with a brand new, fresh army. If those two were to link up, Rome would be crushed like a nut in a vice. So with Rome caught in this death trap, the city's fate falls onto the shoulders of its two elected consuls. One of them, a man named Gaius Claudius Nero, has the job of keeping an eye on Hannibal down south. And he's about to make a choice that is so far outside the rulebook, it's insane. A decision that will either be hailed as genius or condemned as the mistake that doomed the Republic. And then the breakthrough. It comes from just a stroke of incredible luck. Roman scouts managed to capture Hasdrubal's messengers, and what they find is unbelievable. A letter, and get this, it wasn't even in code. It laid out the entire Carthaginian playbook. The two brothers were planning to meet up in Umbria and then march on Rome together. Just like that, Nero knew the enemy's entire plan. Nero's reaction was nothing short of audacious. He didn't ask for permission from the Senate, which, by the way, was totally illegal for a consul locked into one theater of war. He just decided to act. He was going to leave a tiny force behind to fool Hannibal, force march his best men hundreds of kilometers north in total secrecy, and link up with the other consul, Marcus Livius. The plan? Crush Hasdrubal before Hannibal had any clue he was even gone. And he only took 7,000 of his absolute best men, 6,000 infantry and 1,000 cavalry. It was an unbelievable risk. If Hannibal realized how thin his defenses were, he could break through and march on Rome unopposed. But as Nero's small force marched, local Italians came out to greet them as heroes, giving them food and supplies. It was a massive morale boost for the critical fight to come. So while all this is happening, Hasdrubal is camped out near the Metaurus River. He's feeling pretty confident, thinking he's just facing the army of one Roman consul, Livius. He has absolutely no idea that his plans have been blown wide open and that his whole world is about to fall apart. The next morning, as the armies get ready for battle, Hasdrubal notices something feels off. The Roman army looks bigger than he expected. He sees soldiers whose armor is worn and caked in dust, like they've been on a very long march. And then he hears it. From the consul's camp, he hears not one, but two trumpets. As a veteran commander, he knew instantly what that meant. He wasn't facing one consul, he was facing two. He was trapped. Realizing he's outnumbered, Hasdrubal decides not to fight. He tries to pull his army back north that night using the darkness as cover. But it's a total disaster. His local guides betray him and just disappear into the night. His army gets completely lost, stumbling around the southern bank of the Metaurus River, trying and failing to find a place to cross. By the time the sun came up, his army was exhausted, totally demoralized, and trapped, with the full might of the combined Roman legions bearing down on them.
Hasdrubal was out of options. He had to turn and fight. Right there, on the banks of the Metaurus River, the stage was set for a battle that was going to change the world. Now, give him credit. Hasdrubal set up his army brilliantly. He put his best soldiers, his veteran Hispanic troops, on his right flank to take on Consul Livius. He put his Ligurian allies in the center, and on his left flank, he positioned his Gallic troops on top of a steep hill, protected by a ravine, making them almost impossible to attack. And that's right where Consul Nero and his men were supposed to fight, effectively blocked from the action.
So the battle kicks off, and it is an absolute meat grinder. The Roman left and center, led by Livius, just slam into Hasdrubal's best troops. It is a vicious, bloody stalemate. For a bit, Hasdrubal's war elephants caused some chaos, but the Romans had learned a thing or two after years of fighting Hannibal, and they managed to drive them back. But still, neither side could get the upper hand.
Meanwhile, all the way over on the Roman right, Nero and his 7,000 men are just stuck. That rugged terrain makes a direct attack completely useless. He's basically a spectator to the slaughter happening in the center. So that's the big question, right? How do you win a fight that you literally cannot reach? And this is where Nero shows his absolute genius. Just like he marched his army across Italy, he now marches his cohorts across the battlefield. He pulls his men out of the line, swings them completely behind the main Roman force, all the way over to the far left flank, and then they just crash into the flank and rear of Hasdrubal's best troops, the very soldiers who were already locked in a desperate struggle to their front. Well, that two-sided attack was completely devastating. The Carthaginian right flank just shattered, and that caused the whole center to collapse with it. And Hasdrubal, seeing it was all over, refused to be taken alive. He spurred his horse and charged straight into the heart of the Roman lines, fighting like a lion until he was finally cut down. A truly valiant end for a formidable commander. The Carthaginian army wasn't just defeated, it was annihilated. But the consequences of this single day's fight would echo far beyond the battlefield, ultimately sealing the fate of both Rome and Carthage.
The numbers really tell the whole story. Carthage lost around 10,000 men killed on the field, with another 5,000 captured. Rome, on the other hand, lost only about 2,000. This wasn't just a victory, it was the utter destruction of Hasdrubal's army.
Nero then marched his men back south, just as fast as he'd come north. And to announce his victory, he did something incredibly brutal. He had Hasdrubal's severed head thrown into Hannibal's camp. It was a shocking, gruesome message. And it was in that moment that Hannibal learned, for the very first time, not only that his brother was in Italy, but that he was already dead. And now, we finally understand those words. I see the doom of Carthage. With his brother dead, with his last hope for reinforcements completely gone, Hannibal knew his campaign in Italy was over. He was stranded. His grand strategy was in ruins. He could see with perfect clarity that Rome was now destined to rule the world. This one battle permanently changed the course of the war, and you could argue the entire course of Western civilization. Which leaves us with a pretty incredible question to think about. What if Neroba had just followed the rules and stayed put? If the two brothers had united their armies, Rome almost certainly would have fallen. It really makes you wonder, what would our world even look like today?